The training hall buzzed with noise that morning. Boots hitting the floor, men shouting, laughter echoing off the steel walls, and the usual bragging that came whenever different units shared a space. But no one realized that a presence had entered the hall that would change the room's atmosphere in seconds. She walked in quietly, her steps controlled, her posture straight yet relaxed, and her eyes sharp enough to read a person in a single glance. She wasn't wearing a uniform that revealed her rank, nor any insignia that spoke of her authority. Just a simple training jacket and black tactical pants. To anyone else, she looked like another instructor, maybe even a new trainee. But she carried herself like someone who had seen storms that these men had never even imagined. Across the hall, a loud group of Marines stood together. They had been joking, showing off strength, challenging each other to arm wrestling matches, and trying to impress anyone within sight. One of them stood out, tall, heavily built, confident in a way that bordered on arrogance. He noticed her immediately. His smirk appeared even before he said a word. "Hey, new instructor," he said loudly, as if announcing her arrival. She didn't respond, not because she ignored him, but because she didn't consider him worth responding to yet. She walked past without changing her step. His ego didn't appreciate that. He stepped in front of her and blocked the way. "I'm talking to you," he said, voice raised, tone dripping with challenge. She finally looked at him. Her eyes were calm, steady, and unreadable, eyes of someone who had seen real combat, not just training exercises. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice low and steady. Her lack of fear confused him. Marines were used to being respected, some were used to being feared. But she wasn't intimidated, not even a little. He leaned slightly closer. "Just checking how tough you are. We test the new ones around here." His friends laughed behind him, clapping like this was entertainment. She didn't step back. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, observing him with the same calmness one uses to study a problem, not a threat. "You don't need to test me," she said. "You should go back." Her restraint only fueled his urge to push further. "Oh, you scared?" The smallest smile touched her lips. Not amusement, just disappointment. Several senior officers in the room noticed the situation. None of them intervened. They knew exactly who she was. The Marine did not, and that was about to become the biggest lesson of his career. He took another step closer, crowding her space. "You don't walk around ignoring us," he said, lifting his hand slightly as if to provoke her into reacting. She didn't move. It wasn't fear, it was control. "You really want to continue this?" she asked softly. The softness irritated him. He wanted shock, fear, resistance. He wanted her to react. "I said," he repeated loudly, "show me how tough you are." She exhaled slowly, not tired, just done giving warnings. The Marine reached out, intending to intimidate her with a light shove, not harm but dominate. The moment his hand moved forward, the entire atmosphere in the hall shifted. Time seemed to slow. She didn't hit him. She didn't even use force. With a single fluid motion, she shifted her stance, redirected his arm, stepped inside his reach, and trapped him in a controlled joint lock. It was so quick, so smooth, so effortless that for a solid moment even he couldn't understand how he was suddenly frozen, unable to move. The laughter behind him died. His friends stared in shock. She held him there, not hurting him, just controlling him so completely that he felt like a rookie again. "You wanted to test strength," she whispered near his ear. "Strength isn't about showing off." He swallowed hard. She released him instantly, stepping back as if nothing happened. Embarrassment washed over him. He looked around, hoping no one had noticed. Everyone had. Before he could speak, a senior officer approached. Hands behind his back, expression unreadable. "Marine," the officer said, "do you even understand who you just disrespected?" The Marine shook his head. Shame, confusion, and shock tangled in his expression. "No, sir." The officer stepped aside, revealing her at his shoulder. "She isn't a new instructor," he said. "She isn't a trainee. She is the commanding officer of the United States Navy SEALs." The Marine's entire body went still. His mouth parted slightly. The color drained from his face. He had challenged the wrong person. She turned toward him, her expression still calm. "You should learn something today," she said. "Power isn't loud. It doesn't need to be." He lowered his gaze. "Ma'am, I'm sorry. She nodded once. Apologies aren't weakness. They're discipline. He nodded quickly, embarrassed but wiser. She extended her hand. Do you want to learn? She asked, or do you want to intimidate? His answer came instantly. Learn, ma'am. She shook his hand firmly, then released it. Good. Then today, you train with me. Her tone wasn't demanding. It was purposeful. The senior officer clapped his hands. Everyone. Training begins now. As the hull erupted back into motion, the Marine stayed silent, processing what had just happened. Every step he took felt heavier with the realization of his mistake, but lighter with the knowledge he had gained. She walked away calmly, her presence commanding without a word. Now everyone understood why the officers hadn't intervened. She didn't need protection. She was the protection. The entire hull looked at her differently now, not with fear, but with deep respect. Her silence carried weight. Her movements carried discipline. Her presence carried authority. She reached the door, paused for a moment, and glanced back at the Marine. Not with anger, not with judgment, just a faint reminder that respect is earned, not demanded. He straightened instantly, and she walked out the same way she had come in, quiet, composed, unstoppable. Now they all knew exactly who she was, and why she didn't need to say a single word to prove it.